Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew: Keith Johnson,
Me, Rob, with sails unfurled.
Alan Seiler,
We're not Nova Squadron. We're Nova Fleet.
and Veronica Dashel.
Hi.
And if you haven't guessed, tonight we're going to be talking about the two-part finale of Star Trek Lower Deck Season 4. But before we get into that, Keith, do we have any This Week in Trek this week?
Yeah, we got a couple of interesting history things. This is all old school, folks, so sorry about that. But and this all is on November the 3rd, the 3rd of November. 3rd of November 1966. The final script was delivered for one of the most iconic Star Trek episodes in history, and that is Arena.
Oh,
The show.
yeah.
That show is as Trek gets. It's got action, it's got aliens, it's got funky costumes, and it's got the lesson. Well, it's even got Kirk doing something. I don't know how this man could just walk around and figure out how to make gunpowder because he saw some stuff on the ground.
He went to Starfleet Academy, man. They teach you that stuff.
That's right.
Yes.
They teach you to survive in any environment.
Yeah, and after we heard in Lower Decks, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a seminar on like making gunpowder. Great episode. Of course, introduced the Gorn, and what's that place whose name I'm completely blanking on? It's the famous
Cestus 3?
No, the
Vasquez Rocks.
Thank you. It's got the famous scene where Kirk goes up to the great music and rolls this boulder like 5 stories on the Gorn, and the Gorn gets up and makes a little thing. A great episode. Great episode. One other one that I thought was very interesting, and we were just talking about this before we aired. I wasn't going to say anything about this, but also November 3rd, a year later, talk about a change in tone. The episode I Mud aired. Completely different tone from Arena.
You can sort of chart the direction Star Trek went, looking at what year to year, what episode they were working on.
Yes. But, you got to give them credit because these were a bunch of really, really good, talented dramatic actors, Shakespearean actors and stuff. And for them to get and do silly stuff and have fun with it, I mean, you got to give them some credit. I mean, I can't not see Chekhov jumping up and down, or the stupid thing where the one robot slaps the guy because she likes him. And it just goes on and on. Or Spock doing the little thing, I am lying, and Norman's head explodes pretty much literally.
I like My Mud. I think it's fun.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then the last one, same date, in 1996, 30 years later, the best of the tributes to the original series. That's when the DS9 episode Trials and Tribulations aired.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yay.
We were just talking about the other
Fascinating.
night.
Yeah.
That's a great
Man.
episode.
That
It's
is
a great.
superb.
And it holds up so well.
It
Yeah.
does. When you watch it now, the effects do not date.
Yeah.
They did everything so incredibly well. Blending the shots from the two different shows just looks seamless. Still,
Yep.
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
The only thing that I noticed, and it's always been me, is the very last scene when Cisco is
yeah.
smiling at Kirk. The look on Cisco's face doesn't look like a guy smiling at his hero or captain. Kirk smiling at Cisco. It looks like a man smiling at a woman that he just saw. That's the only little thing.
Well, you
He's
know,
a 23rd century person, man. Like, you
Well,
know,
this is true.
likable.
Yeah, he might like him bald.
that's right. I mean, there's a
charming,
history
I
of that too.
Yeah. That's it for Trek history.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break then before we get into Star Trek Lower Decks, but stay right there because we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Gina Shock from the Go-Go's, fabulous drummer of the Go-Go's.
Hi, this is Tony Levin of King Crimson.
Hi, this is David Fishoff of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Hi, this is Richard Evans. I am the author of Listening to the Music the Machines Make.
Hi, this is Teresa Kariakis, punk rock photographer.
Hi, I'm Tom Beaujour, author of Nothing But a Good Time, and you are listening to Modern Musicology.
Modern musicology.
Modern musicology.
You're listening to Modern Musicology, so, pay attention. You might learn something.
Whoop, whoop. Spoilers. Whoop, 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 whoop. Spoilers. Whoop. Spoilers.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
It's exciting.
Yep.
And that's spoilers for the two-part finale of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4. I mean, we've been waiting a week to talk about the ninth episode.
Yes.
The 10th episode didn't let him down either, though. I mean, this
Mhm.
this has been a pretty spectacular finale.
Yeah.
Yeah. They put,
Coming at the end of a spectacular season.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
yeah, they put their foot in it on this episode, no doubt about it. And for
Yeah.
those who don't know, that's an old country term meaning okay, another phrase, they were cooking with grease. That better?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was good. And the reveal of the antagonist completely caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Completely caught
Yeah.
me. I didn't see that coming at all.
Mm-mm.
They
Yeah.
brought back Nick Locarno.
Yes.
Yeah, dog.
I was
It's-
just saying a few weeks ago that I felt like Tom Paris was wasted when he came back. You know, that was a
Yeah.
waste of Tom Paris. And they listened to our episode, obviously, and we're like, well, quick, back to the drawing board. We gotta do right by Robert Duncan McNeil. He got to come back as the big bad.
Mhm.
I know, right?
And now, I mean, we were talking early in the season, and I said that, you know, my hope for this mysterious thing would it be a new alien species.
Mhm.
That didn't work out.
No.
Did not. I hope you're okay with the way that they did play it out, though.
I do, because it was unexpected. And
Yeah.
like Mike McMahon had said in some interviews that this finale is like the ultimate Lower Decks episode.
Yeah.
And he's right. We got Nick Locarno, we got Cito Jaxa, we got Wesley Crusher back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And
As
it
soon
was
as
the
they-
lower deckers from all of the other crews, basically.
True.
Mm-hmm. As soon as they said early in the episode, we are going to find Nick Locarno, I was like, holy cow, are we going to get Robbie McNeil back on this show? I was
That'd be
so
amazing.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So excited.
Oh, well, I mean, what do we think? How do we like Nick Locarno's fate and his portrayal in this episode?
I was a little sad about his fate, but
Okay.
I really
Well,
enjoyed it.
They did say his DNA is part of this new planet.
Exactly. We know what that means. We saw that in a movie one
We've
time.
seen Star Trek before.
Right. We know.
Right now, he's at the Black Mountain with the koala, and then he's going to make his way back.
How did I
Right.
not even think about that? I can't believe I didn't even think about the fact that they literally told us he could be resurrected.
Keith,
Right.
Keith,
I don't know
you're
where my head
slipping,
was.
man.
Yeah, I completely
they're-
missed that.
The Wrath of Khan ending references were too subtle.
You're
Oh
right.
gosh. Including the
boy.
music and everything else like
Right.
that.
Matt, hang on. Where's my cursor? Matt Sweatman says, "The search for Locarno."
There you
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm. So going back to last week's episode, the first part of the two-parter,
Mhm.
I was not a huge fan of that episode because it seemed like Mariner's like, oh my gosh, I'm this way because of this one person that I've never ever mentioned before, was just completely out of left field, and I didn't.
You talking about Cito?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
I
even
thought
about
it was
that.
cool though because she's one of the original Lower Deckers.
Yeah, so
From
that
Next
so
Gen.
I didn't make that connection until you pointed it out this week when you were like it's Cito, that's who that Jorn is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did not make that connection when they were talking about it because I don't know the names of characters that are the
Even
main
Cito?
characters. No,
She doesn't even know the episodes she's seen.
no.
Well,
So one, I didn't make that connection, but two, like this has never been mentioned before. She's never mentioned Cito before,
true.
and it was
Yeah.
like this whole "this is why I am the way I am." And it
Well,
just seemed like it came out of left field completely.
Okay.
well, but you know that she's a character who puts up a big front. She's not going to
Yeah.
talk about this, you know? So here's my thing. We know based on nothing but the title that this series was inspired by the episode Lower Decks,
Mhm.
you know? So thematically, it already has sort of a narrative connection to that episode, but now we have a solid character connection
Mhm.
to Lower Decks. I mean, I'm so excited about this. I thought it was brilliant that they tied the show back to that episode in a very specific and very meaningful way.
Mhm.
And I was so happy about that. Now, on the flip side, and this has nothing to do with the episode, this is all about Disney Plus. They have done things in the past.
You mean Paramount Plus?
Oh, Paramount Plus. I've been very much in Doctor Who mode.
Wrong podcast.
Yes.
Right. On Paramount Plus, they have done things in the past where they literally spoil the most important part of the episode by when you like start the episode and it has the little preview screen before
Yeah.
this episode starts playing.
Yeah.
And like the one time in Prodigy where you saw that the episode was going to include Crusher and Odo and all these people. And I'm like, why would you show me that? And in this one, the little preview screen, the first word out of Mariner's mouth in the preview is Cedo. And I'm like, what? We're gonna get Cedo?
No.
But I tell you, man, it didn't lessen the impact that scene had in the episode itself. I loved it.
Well, Veronica, I could see maybe why that one thing with her didn't work for you in last week's episode.
Yeah.
It was a little out of nowhere, but everything around it I did enjoy, like her fight with Ma'al. And then when they do the thing and he tells her basically you're a warrior, and then she's like, we're allies now. We're not allies. Yes, you are. And I kind of like that. And did you go on to the fact at the very start of the show when those little crazy thingamajiggy lizards were attacking them, that when they put on their anti-venom suits, they were the old school space suits from the original series. It was great.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I see what you're saying, Veronica, about it came out of left field. But I mean, they've been building this whole season towards getting to the root of why Mariner is the way she is. So I think at the end, finding out that she had a friend from the Academy who died in the line of duty, I mean, at some point you got to reveal that. Like that's how just narrative
I wish
works.
they would have like dropped some more hints throughout the thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's
I got you.
I understand that. I totally get that. But the thing that comes out of left field for me is when Riker's father comes on the Enterprise and Pulaski is like, oh, I know your father. And he's like, you never mentioned it. And she said, well, you never asked, which was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. This, at least they were building up to it. At least they were, on the road to, Mariner having a big breakthrough.
Yeah, and I like the way they've handled Mariner this season.
Oh man,
because for a while she was like uber annoying early Lower Decks Mariner, who I also liked, but had those qualities that I didn't like. Yeah, and she leaned back, but there's a whole story explanation for that. It's sort of like, I mean, I think we're gonna get a different Mariner coming back in season 5.
I think we are too.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be really exciting. All right, let me get a stack of comments here.
All right,
Matt Sweatman says, I'd like trying series Lower Decks tying. Oh, frack. I like tying series Lower Decks to episode Lower Decks. Whew, that was hard to get out. Wayne says, in defense of Veronica not remembering all the characters, neither do I. A Facebook user says, do you go around telling everyone about the people you've ever been friends with? Doubtful.
She does.
I do.
Yeah, she probably does.
Well, especially if they died, maybe. But some people don't. Some people don't.
Right.
True.
And
I do.
Sorry, what?
I do.
She said she does.
Possibly the same Facebook user, possibly a different one, says it was revealed. Oh, sorry. It was relevant to know she was friends with Ceto now. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that. I mean, at some point in the narrative, you have to reveal the information. And I was fine with the way it unfolded.
And then Matt chimes in, to be fair, Mariner doesn't really talk about her past much.
Well, she does, but when she does, it's always like, oh, by the way, I know this Klingon ambassador. Oh, by the way, I know Quark. Oh, by the way, like that's just it's part of the way Mariner is.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that time I was on Deep Space Nine, I didn't tell you about that before?
Right.
Yeah, she's gotten around for somebody who wants to be an ensign.
Yeah.
Still. I mean,
okay, you just bring up a thing that makes me jump ahead a little bit. No, actually, I guess it's at the end of the first half of this. So I guess we're right on point where she's like, all I ever want to be is an ensign. I don't want to send people, my friends to their death. If it was good enough for Ceto, it's good enough for me. It wasn't good enough for Ceto. That's the whole point. She was driven. She wanted to advance. And that's why Mariner looked up to her so much. So I thought that was a really interesting point of dialogue.
Yeah, I took it as because an ensign was all she ever was, so why should I advance beyond that point?
Yeah, I guess it's, and I thought that too, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the phrasing of it.
Yeah.
Space phrasing.
So that's very interesting. So that seems to, when I was thinking about that, that means that at some point in time in the past, Mariner was a different person, not the rebel that her parents have been struggling with. Because to what you guys are saying, she pretty much even says Starfleet's not about this. It shouldn't be about killing in battles. It's only about exploration, which is very interesting because, you know, that whole debate about what is Starfleet in the Abramsverse, that weird peacekeeping armada, which makes no sense, but it's actually both. But I can see why she wouldn't want one or the other side of it. Strax would probably say it's different.
Yeah, I mean, she name dropped the Dominion War as well,
Mhm.
and I mean, like we saw in the previous season of Lower Decks, we saw that flashback to her as a lieutenant. I think she was a lieutenant at that time, when she was in the bar or whatever, and she had the first contact style. Like she served through the Dominion War, so I imagine Sito was just maybe the first friend that she knew who died in the line of duty, but not the last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And that was 13 years before. So after 13 years, she still wants to be an ensign. Like, yeah, Mariner, you might want to. I'm glad she's moving forward now.
Yeah. Well, she's in her early 30s, and we've seen, you know, that episode where Picard experienced the Tapestry timeline, and he was, you know, 65 years old and a lieutenant in that timeline. We've seen plenty of times when there's like lieutenants who were gray haired.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And that comes into that play on words in the episode title. You know, the inner fight, the inner light.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which inner light doesn't relate to that's Tapestry, but still it's that whole, like, you know, reliving a life kind of feeling, and it ties her to Picard. All right. Matt says Mariner is probably afraid to get somebody killed except Boimler. She's perfectly okay with getting him killed. Oh, no, she's not.
So, I mean, were you surprised by the reveal that, I mean, we got a little bit of it. I mean, when we were watching the Ferengi ship and we found out that one of the Ferengi knew more about the situation, and that was the first one of those little scenes that we got that piece of information. But I guess he's been going around sort of sparking mutinies amongst all these different species crews, which, and I want to rewatch those scenes now because, like,
me too.
I thought it was just cute going along, like, oh, we're seeing sort of the interpersonal relationships and all these different ships and different species, and this is kind of nice. But it turned out it was building towards the story because there was mutinies going on that I didn't pick up on until the Ferengi one. So if there was more obvious ones, I didn't catch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither did I.
Yeah.
Same here.
I don't remember them giving an explanation as to where the debris from these ships came from. Because every time we saw these ships destroyed, there was debris.
Right. I think there was an explanation, but I can't recall when or what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so if someone remembers that, put it in the comments and we'll mention it.
Oh, somebody will. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We have a lot on our plates, people. It's too much to keep up with random ship debris, too.
Right. But I liked that, like Veronica mentioned earlier, it was like the lower deckers on all the ships who were mutinying. It's like, you know, all the different lower deckers across all these ships that turn out to be the bad guys in the end.
Yeah, exactly. Matt does not chime in with the answer to our question, but does say Lower Decks is great at hiding important bits of seemingly throwaway lines.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're very good at that.
Yeah, or things that you thought were a gag.
Yes.
And it turns out it's important later. Like I just finished rewatching the second part, so I'm excited to talk about the second part. What else jumped at anybody from the first part?
Sorry, go ahead, Keith.
No, go ahead, Veronica.
I really liked the scene where the Ferengi and Romulans were pretending to fight so the Klingon would attack them.
That was great.
And because you thought that they were like actually fighting each other, and then you realize that they're not. They're trying to work together. That was mildly amusing. Ferengi and Romulans trying to work together.
And then the Ferengi talks about his great plan, and Rom's like, "Yes, you're smart. Okay, you know." I thought it was a very interesting strategic thing when and Mariner were allies, and he literally said that the Orion woman was the one they needed to take out, which says a whole lot about Orions. He said the rest of them are afraid of him, but he said she was the one. And when he showed up, they all gasped, even the Bynars gasped. So they are afraid of him. But it's interesting that he pointed the Orion woman over the Cardassians and the Romulans as a threat.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're no joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've talked about this a few times this season, and I just want to make note in the first half of this story how much I loved Captain Freeman.
Mhm.
Once again, she is in charge, living large. She comes across as incompetent, as not knowing what's going on, but it's all to fool the people she's trying to get information from.
Yes.
Well, it's like, girl, you get it.
And fooled me too.
Mhm.
Because I thought it was back to incompetent Freeman.
Yeah.
And I've said before, I like when Freeman's competent. So I like that they played off of that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I don't know yet how I feel. I've been for 4 seasons now wanting Baylock to return. I love Baylock. The Corbett Maneuver is one of my favorite episodes. But now, if
Yes.
they're saying that that's a real species and the Baylock puppet was based on that species, okay. But if they're saying that original Baylock puppet wasn't a puppet, then I got a problem.
No, I'm think the first thing you said is
Okay,
what
good.
they're.
Yeah, I think it'd
Thank
have
you
to
for
be
saying
a.
that, whether you mean it or not, so I can sleep
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, I think that species must be a species in what was it, the First Federation? That must
Maybe.
be what it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
true.
what I'm thinking. Although
I
it
like
was funny because then he literally goes, "Dude, why would make you think I'm a puppet?" And his hands doing puppet
Right.
stuff.
Can't
And
tell
his
who
mouth
who is
never
not a
moved.
puppet.
His mouth never quite moved with the words. It was
That's-
hilarious.
So
Yes.
it wasn't just a herky jerky puppet. That's how that species is.
Yeah.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
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 I also think, even though they were doing it for laughs, I thought there was something very interesting. What they kept doing in that episode is several people literally kept saying, "You think you're better than us because you're Starfleet."
Mhm.
Over and over. It's like, you think you can just waltz in here because you're Starfleet. Even their uniforms, he's like, I know those uniforms. It's a 2-hour wait. And he goes, oh, later. Oh, it's a 2-hour. That's another 30-minute wait. And then the bounty hunter comes in. Then they had like specials for tripod people that
Mhm.
day. Everybody but Starfleet gets to get in, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like that because at first it was like, why are they wearing the uniforms? I mean, I guess
Yeah.
it's a
Yes.
next gen kind of a thing. Like they would always
Mhm.
just beam down to these like drug lords or whatever on a planet,
Yes.
and they're just wearing their Starfleet uniforms.
Right.
But I like it. The whole thing was a scam. I thought that was really great.
Mm-hmm. I did too. I loved it.
And I like that Billups got to be the cool sort of almost Star Warsy bounty hunter guy.
Yes.
Dude, he was cool looking.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
That was awesome.
Talking
Yeah.
about Star Wars, they were riffing Star Wars, weren't they? Because when they first got there, everybody who was manning the station had on those little caps from the people in the Empire did. The dude had a British accent, so I was like, well, they were really riffing Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Comments. Matt Sweatman says, I love Rutherford discovering their uniforms have pockets. Wayne says Captain Freeman is Lower Decks' Black Widow.
Here,
Okay.
here.
I like that.
Yeah,
Elaine says, don't take away the puppets.
agreed.
And one of our unnamed Facebook user points out something from the cold open of the second episode that I think we just need to jump right into, and
Yeah.
that is Cadet Wesley Crusher.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Were you expecting Will Wheaton to pop up?
Okay.
No.
No.
Let me just say, after the first episode, when we got Locarno at the cliffhanger,
Mhm.
and we had already talked about Sito, I was like, are we actually going to get Sito next week? I bet we are. I did not expect the whole squadron, though.
Right.
I did
didn't
not
either.
expect Will Wheaton. I was so
Mhm.
excited.
And now they've established that Mariner knows Wesley Crusher.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that might come around later.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I gotta say, Garrett Wong is probably ready to chew nails at this point.
They've got to bring him back. Come
Yeah.
on.
Given that he does a podcast every single
Right.
week with Robert Duncan McNeil, which has been running for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They just finished Voyager. So yeah, I really wanted to see. I want to see them find a way to bring him in. So I thought it's interesting. You remember when they said that they had determined that there was a list of kidnapped civilian, or there was a list of civilians that were possibly going to be kidnapped.
Right.
And now that you know what Locarno's plan was and the kind of person he was looking for, the list makes sense because on the list was 7 of 9, Beverly Crusher, who we now know was kind of rogue. 7
Right.
of 9 was what did they call him?
A ranger.
A
Fenris
ranger.
Ranger.
Fenris Ranger. Uh-huh.
And not Will Riker, but Thomas Riker.
That's right.
Yep. They're targeting
right.
the former Starfleet officers who were sort of out there as rogues.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, Beverly Crusher would have a young child with her too.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess you gotta
absolutely.
explain that.
Interesting bit of crossing there. This is literally outside of it. This is literally one of the most intelligently and best written shows I've ever seen in Star Trek. Outside, I mean, because they like you were saying earlier, they give you something that's a throwaway. You go, that was stupid, and then it pays off later on.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, and then it's serious, and then it gets to the absolute heart of Star Trek. It's just amazing the writing they do on this show.
Yeah. By the end, it's just an epic, as epic as any Star Trek movie has been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not supposed to get emotional about characters in an animated show.
I really liked Miggly Moo in the arena.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That was so silly. It was funny.
Fluff your dander. Fluff it. Oh my God.
Oh, that was good.
All right. Our Facebook user says Baby Clint Howard's character in Corbomite. That's what the puppet was referring to.
Yes.
That's right. And Wayne says it sounds like Trek execs are treating Wong like a throwaway.
I don't think so. There was plans to bring in that big Picard finale. There was supposed to be a Captain
Kim.
Yeah, Captain Kim. I just blanked on his name.
Mhm.
I just can't say Captain Kim. It's my brain.
Yeah. Yes.
But they had to scale it back. But I would be very surprised if Garrett Wong doesn't show up on Prodigy with all the Voyager stuff on Prodigy.
Agreed.
And that's where I'd rather see him, and rather than just show up as a joke.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I'd love to see them actually use Ensign Kim or whatever rank he is.
Captain Kim.
And that's actually what he said several months ago. Is he was very disappointed because you're right. He was supposed to show up in Picard, and then they told him, "Well, you're gonna show up in Prodigy," and so they couldn't do both for whatever reasons. And then of course Prodigy gets canceled and et cetera and all this weird stuff. So we don't really know, but that was supposed to be the idea. Is they bring him into Prodigy. Now he was a little frustrated because I think he was kind of like, okay, when's it gonna happen? So we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll happen at some point.
I mean, he needs to.
Yeah, and they're bringing everybody back. They're going to run out of people if they don't run. If they don't, they got to bring everybody back.
Yeah.
Won't that be? I mean, look, in Prodigy, they brought back people who aren't even alive anymore.
That's true.
Wouldn't it not just be the most hilarious thing if they literally ran through every main and guest character, and then finally they're like, okay, we're out of people. We have to put on Kim.
It's like you even brought back Leonard Nimoy. I can't get apart. Come on. Yeah.
Okay. Matt says, I really felt the callbacks to Wrath of Khan in this finale was up there with the callbacks in Picard season 3.
Yeah. I like the big finale in this one better than that Borg over the whole. My problem with Picard season 3 is that the storyline didn't make much sense by the end. So I thought that this one, the big epic spaceship thing, I thought worked for me better than the one in Picard did.
Did we not say that every season of Picard? I think it made much more sense in season 3 than it did in the first two.
Yeah, you got me there.
Oh boy, that's just funny to hear that again. That old chestnut. And then Wayne says, I say again, Wong is being treated duck's shoe. Nah.
Okay. I think he'll show up. I would be
think he
very
will.
surprised if Garrett Wong doesn't show up on Star Trek Prodigy.
I mean, totally
you've got
agree.
Janeway, Chakotay, the Doctor.
Yeah.
I would expect to see Lieutenant or Lieutenant Commander Kim.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I hope so. But as far as this episode goes, I love going back to Orion. They've done a great job with Orion this year.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
what Lower Decks has developed. They've developed the
Yeah.
Orions more.
Yeah.
And it's so many things from the season just all came together in this episode, and I love that. It's just smart storytelling when you have all these different little episodic adventures, and then the finale sort of brings all that stuff together with the Ferengi and the Orions and Mariner storyline and all that stuff.
And the captain got a little bit of absolution at the end where they're like, I'm ready to accept whatever punishment you say. Well, you know what? We think you did a really good job with establishing relations with the Orions for the very first time. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. I love that Orion battleship. I like
Oh
the
my
variety of the Orion ships.
Yes,
I mean, because
yes.
they also brought back a ship that looks very much like the ones from the Pirates of Orion.
Right.
That at the end there. But I like that the big green battleship was cool too, and they did a Star Destroyer into the Death Star kind of a thing with it.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I loved it.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just such an epic moment. That
Mhm.
ship just piling into that Trinar, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gate.
the modified Tholian web.
Right.
No, Tholian web or the thing that Q threw up in the series pilot of next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked more like that, but
It looked more like that.
Those planetary shields that they have on Star Trek Picard and on
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds have that
okay.
same sort of like
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
The force fields have a texture now instead of just a shimmery.
Right.
Okay, another very important point from Elaine. Boimler did a great job as acting captain.
Yeah.
Heck yes.
And that's been the sort of the storyline for the Lower Deckers this season, was stepping up into a more of a command role, leading
Yeah.
away missions and that sort of thing. So I thought that was wonderful that he's not playing on the holodeck this time. He actually got to be acting captain of the ship.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see it in Tendi too, because
Mhm.
she is very much one of the problem solvers of this
Right.
two-parter. She's
Mhm.
the one who comes up with solutions. And I just want to say, T'Lyn, man, I love T'Lyn. I'm so glad that she's much more regular on the show this season than last season. And I gotta say, I'm very happy that she, blew off her former captain
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
she wants to stay where she is.
Mhm.
And be science besties.
Yeah.
Only
Oh, that-
they can't be science besties now.
I know.
Oh, I love that episode. I love that moment.
Yeah.
Don't say it if you don't mean it.
Well, they're gonna have a different foursome next year. To start off with.
Yeah.
To
While
start
we-
off with.
While we get the resolution of, I mean, I wouldn't expect she's going to be on Orion very long. It'll probably be
Right.
episode 1.
Yeah.
It'll be the end of episode 1, just like it
Yeah.
was with Freeman when she was arrested.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to carry it on beyond one episode.
Right.
No, because they're smart.
Yeah, but we may see a little bit of a different dynamic between them at the start of the episode. When the show
Definitely.
comes back. It'd be interesting to see how T'Lyn. I've said this before, but I just think everything T'Lyn says is hilarious. Whether it's a joke or not, just every line she has is just.
It's
hilarious.
that delivery
Yes.
and the expression that they draw on her face. Just kills me every
even
time.
when they're all walking down the hallway, I noticed the others are kind of bob when they walk, and she
Right.
just
Yeah.
no bobbing.
Yeah, she always has the same expression on her face.
Yeah. She's just great.
Elaine says, Tendi has come back somehow. Oh, has to come back somehow.
Yes.
Oh,
Of course.
there's no question of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
that'll
be
happen.
shocked.
Right. Ooh, and Matt says, Kim always being an ensign is starting to get tiresome, so it's time to show him. But it would be funny if he's only a lieutenant junior grade.
Yeah, maybe it'd also be funny if he was like surprised, like he was a Commodore. You're like, whoa.
I think he should be a
Yeah.
I think he should be a captain or a commodore by now. Seven
Agreed.
can become a captain, and Tuvok is an admiral. Chakotay, who was a Maquis leader, is a captain. And Kim by now, my goodness, he's got to be something.
Someone probably reviewed the logs and we're like, okay,
Yes.
you're owed like 4 promotions.
Right. Exactly.
Commander at minimum.
Like, what
Yeah.
did you do to Janeway?
Why does she hate you?
I want him to be captain of a ship, and we get to know a little bit about his main crew.
Mhm.
And one of them is like, God, I'm still an ensign. I can't ever get anywhere on this ship.
He's like, don't complain to me, buddy.
Yep. 7 years.
Oh, here we go. Captain Kim's telling his 7 years innocent story again. Uphill both ways.
But speaking of Voyager characters, the two moments where they're like, Locarno looks just like Paris, and Boimler's like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Cracked me up.
They had like the same face.
Nope, don't
No.
see it.
No.
The thing that killed me in this episode, I thought was just a fantastically dropped joke, was the Ferengi paywall on the
Yes.
drug button.
Oh my
It's
gosh!
2 strips of platinum. No,
Oh, that was great.
They put a paywall on a bomb. Stupid Ferengi.
Boom.
It makes so much sense. Of course.
Oh,
they
that
would.
was so hilarious.
That
All right,
was
Even
Veronica.
if they put a paywall on it, how are they gonna get platinum?
Well, they
Right.
won't blow up if they put the latinum in, and if you don't have any latinum, you blow up.
Yeah, that was it. Because he was trying to deactivate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So instead
right.
of a code, it was a payment.
Veronica, I need you to talk about the Ferengi in this episode. What did you
Uh-huh.
think, and were you happy with the way that they were portrayed?
Yeah, I thought they were great.
Mhm.
It took them entirely too long to realize that there wasn't any profit in this for them. But that was my only one gripe. But I really enjoyed the lines that they had and
Mhm.
their interactions with Mariner.
I've got some new rules of acquisition along the
91?
way.
Yeah.
And their scheme was that she's like, he doesn't care about profit. Like, exactly, more profit for us.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was good. I like the Ferengi too. I love that little new Ferengi ship they were flying around in, the one that we saw earlier in the season, but it's new on lower decks. And
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. They've done such a great. They've come so far since season 1 on the ships, and they're just building ships like crazy. Even when they could reuse a ship, and they'll just build a ship.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
The ship that Mariner grabs to fly into the nebula, is that a new
Nice.
ship?
No, it's a
Is that
steam
a-
runner.
It's a what?
It's
I
a
don't know
steam runner
that.
class. It was one of the background ships from First Contact, and it would show up in little spots in the Dominion War. It's
Oh.
like a fan favorite as a steam runner. It's a smaller ship.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's a steam
It's
runner
super
class.
cool.
It is cool.
It's a nice looking ship, and the way it has the nacelles in the back, it reminds me of some seaplanes. You know, you see seaplanes in our real world
Right.
with the engine in the back.
Yeah.
I thought it had a really cool look to it.
Yeah, it's a fan favorite that's never really been at the foreground, but fans do
Oh.
talk of it. But they're
Okay.
first seen at that big battle, the big Borg battle in First Contact. But also it kind of ties in because it's the whole lower decks thing, where it's her little hero ship is
Yeah.
a background ship.
Yeah.
And going back real quick, speaking of the Ferengi, it was Rule 91. Your boss is only as good as how much he pays you.
True.
And Rule of Acquisition 289. Shoot first, count profits later. I mean,
Those
they're
are
really
solid.
throwing these things in.
They're solid rules. That's
Yeah.
not bad advice.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Ferengi and Quark's Bar were not listening to that 91 rule, the 21st rule of acquisition.
Okay, Elaine says Matt had to explain to me the Tom Paris Locarno bit.
Ah,
The great thing
And-
about it is that I never in my life expected to see Nick Locarno again
me
Yeah.
either.
because he's been usurped by Tom Paris.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
and basically because Tom Paris was Nick Locarno
Yeah.
and they changed his name so they don't have to pay royalties to the writer for 7 years.
Yes.
Right.
Same kind of thing with T'Pol. Well, she was going to be T'Pau, but they're like, oh wait, that's going to cost us a lot of money, so just
Yeah.
changed a couple letters.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just never expected Nick Locarno to come back again because it was just the other character that Tom Paris played, or Robbie McNeil played before he was Tom
Mhm.
Paris, and so it's just brilliant.
Yes. Agreed.
And it ties Mariner in directly with those TNG storylines. And we know that
Mhm.
Mike McMahon's a huge TNG fanboy, but also it gives us a
Yeah.
concrete like age and timeline for Mariner because that's been a little bit vague over the last 4 years.
Definitely.
She's right about the same age as Wesley Crusher,
Mhm.
and it's been 13 years since she was at the academy, or at least as she, not since she graduated, but since she was she started the academy. Really,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she's 9 years on the academy if she did it in 4 years, something like that. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting. There was a line that Locarno said earlier where he said he was babbling, almost going villain monologuing, and he started yelling about the first independent unaligned fleet in history. And Boimler goes, the Maquis would like to have a word with
Right.
like a word.
right.
That was great.
I
Yeah.
thought that was cool.
I feel like the Maquis didn't have a fleet, though.
They
No,
did.
not
They had
like
like a ramshackle fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that Nick Locarno also built his own ship, kind of like Tom Paris built the
Yes.
Delta Flyer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but this was on a much different scale.
It
Than,
was on a
Yes.
different. He's had more
where
time.
did he get the resources?
I don't know.
Yeah, same way he got that crazy shield. I'm wondering what's he been
Yeah.
up to.
You buy one big replicator and you're on your way. You replicate whatever part you want.
Yeah,
The
the
only-
the things for the replicator. Don't
The
you?
only part of Nick's plan I think wasn't going to work is when he did the broadcast. It was like even the Starfleets. He's basically like, "Hey, if you're not satisfied, if you think your boss, your commander is no good, come join me." I didn't envision a whole bunch of ships fleeing starships to go hang out with whatever the heck he's doing. I didn't see
No.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny that he Mariner's been on his ship for like 3.5 minutes, and he's just going to shove her in front of the camera and expect her to say the thing that he expects her to say.
Right.
That's
Which
hilarious.
is weird because she wouldn't have seen him in like 13 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they barely knew each other, as evidenced by the fact that he tried to kill her. Lily tried to kill her.
Right.
Because she said you're right. She's like, we barely knew each other. But you know, he kind of sort of reminded me of original series bad guys, because original series was replete with incredibly good captains and stuff who go completely bonkers.
Right.
So he kind of reminded me of that, because he was the best of the best. And he has just become nothing but bitter in all those years since.
Yeah.
Well, and he's very into his own version of the narrative. You know,
That's
he
exactly
believes
what I
that
was
he
gonna
was
say.
wronged. He even
Yeah.
says, I graduated top of my class. And she's like, you didn't even graduate. Like, he's got his version of his life in his head.
Right. But he knows Beckett's reputation, and he's doing his own interpretation. He's sort of like molding what he knows about her in his own image. You know what I mean? So clearly she's gone through all this and she's been kept down for all these years. Clearly she feels the same way I do.
Right.
So it's a little bit of projection on his part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it actually shows you that, and even with that's actually one of my favorite episodes of TNG, the First Duty. It also shows you what Locarno is a strangely dangerous person. I don't know if you call him a sociopath, but he's definitely like really badly narcissist. Because as you guys are saying, he writes the narrative. Because even at the end of the TNG episode, when they said that he gave this impassioned plea not to kick the rest of the team out, even Wesley says, well, he stood up for the team. I'm like, dude, you got somebody killed. So I don't know how much credit I want to give this guy. He could have been a strange captain. He could have been, you know, that kind of person where you always find out later there was something weird about them or something dangerous about them, hiding in them. I think it might be good that came out and they kicked him out of the Starfleet.
Yeah, like he could have been buddies with that guy from the Reliant and from DS9.
Yes.
Like the narcissistic captain guy who, you know, believed that he should be the captain of the ship.
The young guy, the younger guy, right? With the yes.
Or that guy from Equinox and Voyager.
Yes.
I could see Locarno taking some of the same actions as that guy did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's, I mean, the classic bad captain. They probably start out like Nick Locarno's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get pushed over the edge one day and you wind up, you know, on a planet. Becoming God or whatever.
Hanging out with the cosmic koala.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the starships, something that I was going to bring up, Matt chimed in with and says, I love finally seeing a captain's yacht.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they showed it on Lower Decks before. But
Yes.
even they even call it in the episode. Like, I've never seen someone use a captain's yacht before.
Yes. And Matt, to add on to that yacht and all of that scene was literally the best animation I've seen in this series. I was like, did they put extra money into the animation? That animation was phenomenally good.
Yes.
Stunningly good.
Yeah.
All the ship action.
Yes.
In this show is great. I felt like this episode was, and I'm sure it's not just this episode. I'm sure that other ones have, you know, especially the big finale battle episodes or whatever. But man, they just do a phenomenal job.
I really loved when Mariner was flying through like the snowflakes.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Loved it. I'm just gonna guess that this is Michael Phillips, but our unnamed Facebook user says, Steamrunner class, I wondered what that was. I think I have a new favorite class of obscure Starfleet ships.
It's
Agreed.
a cool
That was a really cool little ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that's something that Lower Decks can do too, is just pull the like that Romulan ship. They got really focused this episode, and that was from concept art. You know, that was not even, it wasn't even a ship on the show.
Yeah.
And I love that they pull that kind of stuff because you know, early in Lower Decks when it first started, the model was lower resolution. They were playing kind of fast and loose. All the Starfleet ships that show up look kind of like the Starfleet ship your mom would buy you at Kmart because she couldn't afford a real Starfleet ship. You know, it was like the knockoff Star Trek stuff. But over the course of the show, they've really like honed it in, and they're building like exact replicas or almost exact replicas of all these obscure ships and concept art and fleshing stuff out. Like they've really come a long way on it. Then, I mean, you watch season 1 and it looks like a lot of like knockoff Star Trek ships.
Agreed.
For people I was going to say for people in the Atlanta area, but that doesn't necessarily apply. For people who go to Dragon Con on the regular, there's this dealer in the, massive complex that is the dealer's room. It's like a freaking board
Dealer's
cube.
building.
But there's this one guy who does artwork that he prints on like metal pictures and
yeah.
metal bookmarks and stuff. And he does ships from all these different properties. And he does a lot of Star Trek ships. So I buy stuff from him every year because his stuff is amazing.
Yep.
And this year I was just like, I don't even know, conversationally talking to my friend Daniel, and it said something about Lower Decks or something. And he was like, oh, well, in case you're interested, I am working on some Discovery ships for my line for, you'll probably see them at next year's Dragon Con, and the Cerritos. I was like, buddy, if you have a Cerritos, I will buy the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I still want a Cerritos Hallmark ornament for my tree.
Right.
And I want it to have that thing suckling on the warp nacelle.
Yes.
Like,
why have they not made that?
I don't know. This year, though, we're getting the Apollo hand Enterprise.
Yeah.
And a Battlestar Galactica.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
great
good
stuff.
Yeah, they do a great job. They've come such a long way with the world building and with building these characters. It's just great. And I've said before, I said a couple times this year over the course of the different Star Trek series we've been watching, I get a little bit worn out on the continuity stuff. I would like to have more new things. And we didn't get that in this, but I thought they used the continuity callbacks in a really fun, unexpected way.
Agreed.
Right.
Which is a thing Lower Decks does amazingly and does consistently.
Yeah.
All right. So based on what we know at this moment, which is very little, and it only really pertains to like our main characters, what do you think we might see in season 5?
Well, the dangling threads they didn't touch on this year. Sometimes they skip a year. Like they'll introduce T'Lyn and then you don't see her for a year and then she's back the next year, that kind of thing.
Right.
Would be Boimler's transporter duplicate.
Yes.
Section 31.
Yes.
Return to the Rutherford storyline.
Rutherford. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that we get some of that Rutherford storyline next year.
Yeah. They tied up a lot of the dangling threads this year. One episode tied up all the sentient AIs that have been on the show so far. But you notice that Guji is still hanging out.
Yeah,
in the
I saw
I
him.
do. I saw that. I love that.
What do you guys think we're going to see?
I think you covered it there as well. I'm curious. One thing you guys were talking about earlier is I'm curious how long Tendy's story will go. Will it go along or just like one episode? Because
one thing I just thought of now when we were talking about it would be hilarious if like Tindy was just back, and through the course of next season, you find out what she was up to. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be really cool.
I thought you meant they pull a Shax and they're just like Tendy. And she's like, yeah.
Right.
The weird thing about that is when Tendy changed her personality back into, what is she, the mistress of the winter constellation? Her face completely changed. And then they had what I wrote down in my notes is simply the best music I've ever heard in Lower Decks to end that episode. It was dramatic. It was somber.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's a whole lot for Tendy. Go out on Tendy when she says, I've got this, whatever. I thought that was really wild. And also the thing that I thought was interesting is when she met her sister, somebody else in lesser hands who would have been more comedic, they would have made her sister more like her little sister, kind of goofy. No, she's taken over. She's like, look, I got 2 crime syndicates I've got to merge. So it was not joking around. And so if Tendy goes back, she's got to really follow her sister and do some crime stuff. And again, I just, that music cue where her out was really odd because it's incredibly serious.
Well, and that's I'm glad you brought that point up because I was kind of forgetting to mention that. I loved that they segued directly into like the score just continues on through the credits rather than it coming to a stopping point and then the closing, the normal closing theme song starts. This one, I just loved the way that they segued the score just directly and it just kept going into the credits. It was really nice.
They treated it like a movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and like the big finale, the music was very cinematic as well. It was very Star Trek movie music. And then, like you say, it continues on with like the Starfield instead of the traditional credits that we usually get.
Right.
And it was fantastic. Another thing that I would like to see in season 5, I would like to see them continue to use the Orions basically like the Klingon, like the TNG used the Klingons.
Yes.
Like continue building
Yes.
them and having the Orion storyline. They're obviously going to continue because that's the cliffhanger. But I would like to see that continue to be a recurring theme. They're doing a fantastic job with the Orions.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I would really like to see a little bit more Bynarr.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, they were
that-
great.
That's a race that I've always been intrigued by, and we really only ever saw them one time.
Yes.
And now we've gotten a few little glimpses of them this season, and Mariner understands their language. And I would love to see more of that. I would love to see that developed a little farther.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they also never brought the Breen back. They
Oh.
dropped
Yeah.
the Breen at the end of season 3, and we didn't see them at all.
That's right. I was thinking about that when I was watching
Yeah.
this episode today.
The Breen are in my top 3 aliens I want to see more of. That includes
Okay.
the Breen, the Voth, and the Hirogen.
Yeah.
I
Oh
love those
man, the
3
Hirogen.
aliens.
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one's touched the Voth yet, because that's
Oh my gosh, yeah.
they're evolved dinosaurs from Earth. Like that
I know.
seems like an obvious thing. They have a world ship. Like,
Yes, yes.
Oh my god.
yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And Charles, you were mentioning that they treat the ending like a movie. Another thing you don't have to do an animated cartoon is when it was weird when Tendi was standing there. I know this because I rewound that scene 5 times, seriously, because I love the music that much. When Tendi was standing there, they actually showed the Cerritos blink out of sight as the ship went to warp, and they took time to animate that. But if you look at it very carefully, her body language changes as soon as they go to warp. And then she says, I've got this, or I can do this. And then she becomes that other Tendi.
Yeah.
And that's just some amazing detail for a cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing. Again, which was like, 26 minutes, however long it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that long.
I think
Yeah.
it was 29 minutes today.
Was it? Oh, so
Wow.
Oh, I didn't notice that it was longer than typical.
Yeah, I actually I think it said like 30 minutes and something when I was watching because I did not wake up.
But even so, that's 29 minutes. Like when we get an extra long, like Strange New Worlds or Picard, it's like 65 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that was long. That's not even touching half an hour yet.
Yeah. One thing, and this is a Star Trek thing, so it is what it is. I wrote in my notes, does any successful officer ever follow the rules 100%?
No.
And I think the answer is no.
No.
Because it's a drama.
Yes.
That would be boring.
Well, not only that, but if you don't have somebody who creatively thinks in that
Yeah.
position, you're
Mhm.
screwed. If you have
Right.
somebody who only ever follows the rules and only goes by the book, they are not going to get very far.
Yeah. I did think it was weird they decided to name that planet Locarno's world, given that he was a criminal. But hey,
well,
Yeah,
Well, that just
I feel
tells
like that's
you
gonna come back and bite them in the butt.
foreshadowing.
Yes.
Exactly.
And plus, when they go back there later, you'll remember. Oh yeah, I remember what this is. You know, if it was like Beta Angeli 4, you may not
Yeah.
catch it first. But they say we're going to Locarno's world.
Right.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think this season has just been a triumph. I mean, every year, and we just say it every year, but it actually does get better every year.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought the writing, the comedy, the use of the Star Trek lore is just so smart. It's so
Yeah.
satisfying to watch. And like I said, little things like that Ferengi, it's just a gag that just works so well. The little Ferengi, the paywall on
Yeah.
the destruct button, because it's like, of course, but that's a big
Yeah.
dramatic moment, but it's hilarious too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this last week. If I ever run into Mike McMahon, I'm hugging him.
Right.
I think I remember now because I actually said Terry Metalis, and then you corrected
Yes.
me, and I said, "Well, I'll hug Terry Metalis."
Him too.
Everybody gets a hug.
I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the word you said, Charles, triumph, is correct. I have never been as surprised by a Star Trek series, I think, as I have this one. Maybe the only one that comes close is Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just went along for the ride. I had no, despite everything I say about things like the Kelvinverse movies and stuff, I never, ever, ever go into a Star Trek series prejudging. I never do that. Oh, I'm going to hate this because of whatever. I just sit there and, give it to me. And man, they've blown. And again, I think I may be the only one here that never seen. Is it Rick and Morty? I keep having asked that question.
Yeah.
Never seen a second of that.
Yeah.
So
But
I
now
knew
you should
nothing.
go watch it.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty is good. It took me a while to get into that. And that was after Lower Decks. I went back and gave Rick and Morty a try. But yeah, every
Ah.
time there's Star Trek news that I'm not thrilled about, I try to
Mhm.
remind myself the way I felt when I heard that a guy from Rick and Morty was doing a Star Trek. cartoon, you know, because I
smart.
even used to like snidely call it Trek and Morty.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, they've proven themselves. I mean, I still say Lower Decks is the best current Star Trek series for me. And that includes season 3 Picard. That includes Strange New Worlds.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
They're just killing it.
You know, I hear people and like a couple of people that I know have said things like, you know, I don't watch that or Prodigy or whatever because I just don't like watching cartoons. And I guess I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, you have really lost out on a spectacular Star Trek show.
Yeah. If you feel that way, you don't want to watch cartoons, do this. Turn on the audio captioning and then don't look at the screen. And it's like an audio play.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Star Trek audiobook.
Yeah. I do that sometimes when I'm driving. I'll have it where my phone's like where I can't see it.
Yeah.
But it'll play the audio and stuff. And it's delightful.
Nice.
I saw somebody online today who said that, Alan, and it is what it is. We prefer
Yeah.
what we prefer. I literally can't comprehend not liking cartoons because I am just like, to me, animation is just amazing. But I was amazed at how many people have actually said that online. They're like, well, I don't really like cartoons, but I like Lower Decks. Like, wow, interesting.
That's good. That's good.
A lot of people say
good.
that.
Yeah.
But I also can't comprehend people who say they can't watch black and white anything.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
two last things. Our Facebook user says Lower Decks is amazing Star Trek. Well, we
Yes.
all agree with that.
True.
Oh,
Yep.
now there's 3 comments. Elaine says we watched the Ready Room today. Jerry O'Connell and Dawn Lewis were on. Dawn said she is already working on recording for season 5.
Yay!
Yes.
Wow.
Well, and we knew that was already done and written and in pre-production. So I'm glad to see that they are in the recording booth.
And I'll throw in real quick that I do want them to bring back Will Wheaton now so he can have scenes with Ransom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the
Yes.
Stand By Me kids together.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
totally. And then Matt finishes us up by saying it's hard for me to compare animated Star Trek to live action. I love Lower Decks, but I can't somehow quantify that enjoyment against Discovery, Strange New Worlds, or even Picard.
Like they're two different
Okay.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can.
I can see
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Well, yeah. Sounds like we're all pretty thrilled with the season finale of Lower Decks. We've got a while now. We've got we'll have a break before next year. We should have Discovery and Star Trek Prodigy now. So we've got Star
Yay.
Trek coming. Whew, it was getting touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
But next week we're gonna have a belated celebration of our 140th episode.
Yes.
So we'll be talking about the 140th episode of all the Star Trek shows that made it that far.
All 3 of them.
Yeah, and we'll post a master list. What we do is we just go to Wikipedia and look at the one that's numbered 140, and that's sort of like so we don't spend the next week debating what counts as an episode, which production order versus air date, and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
We'll never have time to
Yes.
watch the episodes.
Ones that were originally one feature length episode and now they're counted
Right.
as 2-parters. None of that. We
Yeah.
just go to Wikipedia and say whatever it says.
That's right.
And Wayne and Elaine, for you who said that there are certain things you don't remember about old Trek and names and stuff, buckle up because we're going to start doing some deep dives.
That's right.
Yeah.
during
we're
the
gonna
time.
A lot of deep dives. We're working to get some guests on. We're gonna
Yeah.
keep it lively
Yeah.
and make use of our time before Discovery comes
Yes.
back. But
So continue to join us every Thursday at 8 o'clock. And especially next week, because in number 140,
Yep.
one of my all-time favorite Star Trek episodes we're going to get to talk about. I'm going to literally spend half of the episode on that one.
Okay.
all right.
Cool.
Well, Alan, where can people find more of you?
Well, you should go and look into, if you're a music fan, you should go and look into Modern Musicology because, well, it's a great show for one thing. We're coming up on our 100th episode for another thing and our 2nd anniversary. And we've now got some new guests lined up for future episodes that are pretty exciting. So join the fun. And if you're a Doctor Who fan, you should go and listen to Doctor Who A to Z, Doctor Who Auton to Zygon, because there is a ton of stuff happening in the Doctor Who world right now. We have an episode coming out tomorrow morning that's going to be covering all of those Doctor Who. It's called Tales of the TARDIS that came out yesterday. we're diving into every one of them in our episode tomorrow morning. So look for that.
Awesome.
And how about you, Keith?
X and Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about us, Veronica?
Feltnerdy.com.
And
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
that's right. We just posted our discussion of the film Head with special guest Alan Seiler.
Woohoo!
Our next episode,
Everywhere.
literally as we're recording this tomorrow, we're going to Welk Street Records in Athens, Georgia for the Mickey Dolenz new EP release, which is going to be fantastic.
That's
And it's getting
amazing.
incredible reviews.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. So we're going to have an episode about that experience as well as about the EP. We've got a bonus episode coming up because we talk about the monkeys all the time, but I mean, we're living in a 2-month period where there's a new Beatles single, there's a new Rolling Stones album that's #1 in certain places. There's Ringo Starr had an EP where Paul McCartney wrote and produced one of the songs. Like it's going nuts. And so we're going to do a bonus episode about the other 60s groups.
Nice.
That are active right now. And then close out the month with a discussion of the Head soundtrack, which Alan was nice enough to come back for. So we're celebrating the Head 55th anniversary as well as the fact that it's the 60s again all of a sudden.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, Veronica, do you have a closing for us this week?
I had one and it's gone now.
We'll make one up.
Cow.
Okay. Shoot first, ask questions later. Oh, shoot first, count Latinum later.
There you
There we
go.
go.
You got there in the end.
I got it.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you
Thanks,
next week.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.